Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a fun fold card, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know what you call it, but it's really cute and it's really easy. So when you open it up, it has this unique little panel on the front. I've seen this referred to as the Bumblebee Fun Fold, but that's because the person who created it was putting bumblebees on the card, and obviously if you're not putting a bumblebee on the card, it's not a Bumblebee Fun Fold. But it is a fun fold, it's a fun card, and I'm going to show you how to make it. The stamps that I am featuring tonight is the Paradise Palms set. It's a fun little stamp set, beachy themed. You could use it for birthday or retirement or a whole bunch of different things if you like, but that's what we are using tonight. So the first thing you are going to need is a paper score trimmer and an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. I'm going to show you how to take this one sheet of cardstock and cut it down into 3 pieces that we will use to create the whole card and have one chunk left over. This was just easier than breaking it down. I wanted to show you how to do it step by step. So this is Melon Mambo 8.5 by 11. And the first thing we're going to do is bring our paper trimmer scorer over. Not a lot of cutting and scoring tonight, very simple steps. So we're going to cut this down to 5.5 by 11. So I'm just going to flip it long ways, measure over to 5.5, and trim. So hold on to this, we're going to need that again in a minute. But we're going to do some scoring first. So now I've got my score blade up here. Here are the measurements in case you want to pause and take notes or take a screenshot. So what we're going to do is score the 11-inch side of the paper at 1 3/4, 3.5, 5 1/4, and 7. And I'll repeat those here in a minute as I get working. I just can't have everything on screen at the same time. So first score line's 1 3/4. Then slide down to 3.5. Next up is 5 1/4. And then the last one is 7. And once you get that 7-inch score line, you can just take this piece and set it to the side. We'll come back to that. So with your scrap that you have left, the first thing we're going to do is cut a piece that is 5 by 2.5. So I just take a 5-inch chunk and then I turn it and trim to 2.5. You just have to, and then I'm going to score this right down the middle. So this scores on that 5-inch side at 2.5. It gives me a cute little 2-panel piece. Set this to the side, and then with that remaining chunk, what you need to do is cut a 2 1/4 inch square piece. So very simple, just trim 2 1/4, swivel 2 1/4. I get rid of that, and I'm going to save this to use on another project. So just like that, we have all the pieces that we need to create the card base anyway, and the fun fold. So next up, we're going to start decorating a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and leave this flat for now. It's easier to glue on the panels while it's flat, and then we'll get to the folding later. So the first thing I'm going to work with is a panel for this back piece. So it can be a panel of cardstock that is plain. You can emboss it, you can stamp on it, or you can even use designer series paper. Totally up to you what you want to do. I embossed my panel. This is the painted texture. It looks kind of like spackle on a wall. This is 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And this just gets glued to that larger panel. All these other ones are narrow, and then you've got this one large panel. So a little bit of adhesive. This is my Stamp and Seal. I always give a little bit extra when I'm working with an embossed piece, just to make sure that the embossing doesn't cause this to lift off the project. But you really don't need any special glue for the main pieces. We're going to use tear and tape in a minute for 2 quick things, and that's it. Okay, so next up, you need 2 pieces of designer series paper that are 1.5 inches wide. by 5 1/4 inches tall. These are from our current special, which is the Waves of Inspiration bundle. We have a stamp set and die set that are going to carry forward into the new catalog, which is coming out at the beginning of May 2022. But there are some designer series paper that is gorgeous. It's got this beautiful ocean look on the back of this particular piece. And then lots of fun color combinations. The DSP and the rhinestones that accompany this set are not going to carry forward. If you want to check it out, you can go to my website. And if you don't have a demonstrator that you're currently working with and you'd like to see a paper copy of our catalog, please feel free to get in touch with me and I would be happy to send you one. So these are 1 1/2 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall, and I'm going to glue them to the first and third panel here on the card. So again, no special adhesive needed really till we get to that tear-in tape. So there's the first panel. We're going to skip the second one and then attach this to the third panel. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this and then we'll get to the stamping so we can finish up. So we're basically going to fold this back and forth like an accordion, but in more technical terms, we're going to do some mountain folding and some valley folding. So what I usually do is I put my hand here on this larger panel and I'm going to fold in towards the back panel on that first score line. So that's a valley fold because it folds down like a V for a valley. Then we're going to fold back the other way. So there's our mountain, another valley, another mountain, and a quick crease with a bone folder. And so here's a glimpse where you can really see the mountains and the valleys, or the accordion fold, however you like to term it. So that's most of the card already put together. Now we're going to switch to stamping before we finish the card. So what you need are 2 squares of basic white. These are 2 inches square each. And then for the front of the card here, you either need a piece of cardstock that you can stamp on, 2 1/4 inches square, or you can use a piece of designer series paper that you can stamp on. That is what I opted to do, just seeing as how it all went together. And this wasn't too busy or too dark that I couldn't stamp on it. So if you've got a darker print designer series paper, just grab some cardstock you can stamp on and do your stamping on plain cardstock instead. This is 2 1/4 inches square. So I'm going to bring over some scrap paper because I'm going to stamp off my square. And I moved my ink. I always keep it on the left and I switch to the right. I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss and then Melon Mambo for my colors. This is a red rubber cling stamp, so it's got the foam already built in, so I don't need a mat underneath for extra cushion. It's already got the extra cushion. And just like with all stamping, don't sink your stamps into your ink. Use a light touch. I always say don't do chest compressions on your stamps. No CPR. So just tap, tap, tap. You can take a look if you're not sure if you got enough ink on there. Tap, tap, tap again. And then light pressure again when you put your stamp on the card. If you press too hard and you have ink around the edges of the stamp, it's going to transfer to your paper. I actually did that with a card just a little while ago, so just make sure you don't press too hard. I like to tap, 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 and then 1, 2, 3, just with light pressure. And there I have a nice image and I didn't have any extra ink hanging around. Before I put the stamp away, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my envelope with those same palm trees because I don't like to have naked envelopes. I like to have either a flap of designer series paper or a stamp or an embossed flap, something that just gives that envelope a little pizzazz, and when somebody gets that in the mail, they're gonna say, oh, there's something cool in there because this envelope has an eye-catching something on it already. Okay, so Now I'm gonna hop over to my Melon Mambo ink for a moment. And this is on that 2 1/4 inch square. I just wanna make sure I clarify the sizes. So I have this happy birthday that I'm gonna squeeze right here on the front. This was perfect size to fit in there. That goes to the side. Then on my 2 squares, I have some inside sentiments. I have wishing you a warm and beachy kind of day. And I have to be careful because when you assemble your stamps, there's stickers that go on these clear or the cling stamps, and sometimes you put them on a little crooked, and then if I'm not careful, I stamp crooked. So I have to, it's gonna look like I'm stamping crooked, but it's actually hopefully gonna come out close to right. I think that's good enough. And then, let's see, I'm done with my Melon Mambo ink. Hop over to the Blackberry Bliss for 1 second. And then, there we go. I think my paper has a little smoosh, some fiber in there. So, just flip it to the other side. There we go. There's all my stamping. So next what I'm going to do is bring over these 2 small pieces. So for my final, the back piece, I'm calling it, my back final inside sentiment, that is going to be put here on your 2 1/4 inch standalone square with a little border around it, like that. Now on this panel, it's got the score line in the middle, so you can go ahead and, if you want, mount and fold it, and then lay it flat. Your stamped image on the front is going to go on the left side. And then my other stamped sentiment piece goes on that other side. Now remember, this is a little bit smaller. That front panel was 2 1/4. This is 2. So don't let it throw you that it is a little smaller. You'll have a little bit bigger of a border around the edge. All right. Now, this is the most complicated thing you're going to do all night, and it's not even that complicated. You need some tear and tape, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this little piece here, flip it over, and we're going to put a piece of tear and tape on the very far edges. 1 strip on each end. And my favorite little trick to do with tear and tape is to grab a clear block with a straight edge and hold it on the edge and pull back against it, and I've got a nice clean cut with my tape, and it's just so much easier for me to try to pull the ends off the backing of the tape without tearing any of that cardstock off. I used to tear cardstock all the time and it would get on my nerves. I'd struggle with it, and doing this, it's a lot easier. So what you're going to do is we're going to be lining up this center score line here with your second score line. So the one between your second panel and that's blank and your third panel, which is the second piece of Designer Series paper. You can decide whether you want it towards the top or the bottom or square in the middle, up to you. But we're just going to line these score lines up, and then once we take off the tape, it'll be perfectly in place. So if you're really handy and comfortable, you can take off both pieces of tape at the same time, but I recommend starting with one, at least when you're first making this card. So I'm gonna hold the end with the tape up a little bit more, and I can put the other end down on the paper and press it flat. So I'm just gonna line up those score lines, top and bottom, hold it in place, make sure this panel is flat, and press down. And then I can lift it up, take off that second backing strip. Again, hold the whole card down flat and just press. And then when I pick it up, I've created that fun fold effect. And then all I need to do is glue this last piece in. Now, a little trick for you. This panel is smaller than this piece here, that front piece we just glued on. So your objective is to just hide it here on the back so it doesn't show. So if you mostly center it, you can eyeball this piece that you've already glued in to see where it is. Or if you want to be really precise, what I recommend and what I did the first couple of times was I took a block, or you could take your bone folder, whatever you like, and I just laid them here with the card folded closed. And then when I opened it up, I knew that I needed to keep my card panel here so it didn't show from the outside. Does that make sense? Sometimes I think I over-explain things and probably make them sound way more complicated than they actually are. But then, give that a press. By using those markers, I've completely camouflaged that back panel. Now, if you like this card but you're wishing you had a little more room to write, it's very simple. All you need to do is add a panel to the back, and you could write as big of a message as you wanted right there on the back of the card. So if you don't want to write a novel, then you can just go with this. There's plenty of room just to sign your name. So one last finishing touch, I thought that this card needed a little bling on the front. So I have some of our iridescent rhinestone basic jewels, and I'm just going to use my Take Your Pick tool to add a few. We have graduated sizes here, so whoop, it's the hardest thing to do is to hold it shut while you're trying to put these on. I'm just going to add a couple of these to the front of the card. I really thought these iridescent rhinestones really pulled out the colors because they tend towards yellow and pink, so it really goes with that Designer Series paper and looks a little bit beachy. So just like that, we have our fun fold card. So I do have a couple other samples to show you. I created a few fun designs using our ladybug punch, but I did not actually use ladybugs. So this first one, I made a butterfly using the ladybug punch. I simply punched the ladybug body out of black cardstock and then chose my wing color and stamped or punched out 2 of the ladybug wings, and rather than put them across the ladybug, I created a set of butterfly wings. So just another option for you with the ladybug punch. And I used embossed cardstock here on the back panel and then again here on the front since I wasn't doing any stamping. And then I just kept the black and white theme with the purple for accent. And then since I was having so much fun with the ladybug punch and not making ladybugs, for this card, I made a bumblebee. So this was the first card that I saw designed in using this fun fold, which is why they were calling it the Bumblebee Fun Fold. And so this is the ladybug body, punched in black cardstock, and then I just took some black and white Designer Series paper that I had on hand and colored the stripes yellow with a Stampin' Blend. If you don't have a Stampin' Blend or black and white paper, all you have to do is cut some narrow strips of whatever yellow shade you choose and glue them across and trim the edges, and then you've got your bumblebee. I added some vellum wings here, and then I thought she needed a little bling, so she's got a little pearl necklace on. And also, this daffodil paper, which is from our celebration, which just ended at the end of February, these daffodils were not actually yellow. They were cream color to begin with, so I took that same Stampin' Blend that I used on my bumblebee and just colored in all the flowers to give it that yellow look that I wanted. And so there we have a happy little bumblebee floating among her daffodils. And to go with it for my accent, I actually used a same piece of Designer Series paper and again colored it with my blends to keep that theme going. And last but not least, this works for masculine cards too. This is another piece from that Waves of Inspiration Designer Series paper that I used in the first card with the palm trees. But this color paper really reminded me of sea turtles, so that's what I did. I pulled out my Whale Done stamp set and used it there. I put the whale on the inside and then used Designer Series paper on the back with my cheeky little birthday message, hoping all your birthday fishes come true. So there is our fun fold card that is very impressive to look at but doesn't take a lot of time to create. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this technique. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd be happy to have you as a subscriber. I typically post videos here twice a week on Mondays and Fridays. And if you click the notification bell after you subscribe, it'll actually notify you every time I post a new video. You can also find me on Facebook as The Faithful Stamper. I do live videos there twice a week, and I also post other projects and things that I am working on, and I'd be happy to have you over there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and happy crafting.